You know, these things actually work better than the other filters for the coffee strainers. Because, if you fold them right, they actually work better. You're watching Real Simple Coffee with Kale McCullough. Today is Thursday, July 23rd, 2020. And this is episode number 1 of the reboot of what used to just be Coffee with Kale, but is now Real Simple Coffee. And in this show, I read RSS news articles. And today's first interesting article that I came across here it's from the Daily Mail. It says, Eco Warrior says going veggie is pointless and mass loss of species is a myth. When it comes to radical activism, there are a few who can hold an ethically sourced candle to Michael Schallenberger, but the American environmentalist has changed his mind rather drastically. Let's see, what did this guy say? Because I've always thought that meat production was incredibly bad for the environment, like the cow farts. But, I just always kind of just took that for granted. The article says when it comes at 16, he threw his first fundraising party for a rainforest conservation cooperative and small farmers to fight off corporations trying to take their land in the Amazon. In 2008, Time magazine named him hero of the environment. His idea to promote renewable energy led to the Obama administration pumping $150 billion into the now trendy section. But far from being a hero of the green movement, he's now become a heretic they'd happily burn at the stake if that didn't increase the global carbon footprint, of course. For the American environmentalist has changed his mind rather drastically. When it comes, hold on, sorry, I'm having some issues with the. That's nice. That's nice. Can you make that go away so I can read the thing? Okay, that's nice. Sorry about that. First time I've tried to do this. Distilling the contents of his new book, Apocalypse Never, Why Environmental Alarmism Hurts Us All, he recently wrote an online opinion article for business magazine Forbes entitled, On Behalf of Environmentalists, I Apologize for the Climate Scare. He continued, Climate change is happening. It's the end of the world. It's not even our most serious environmental problem. A few days later, Forbes took the story down without explanation, eventually claiming it had removed the articles because it violated editorial guidelines around self-promotion. Schellenberger, 49, claims understandably that he had been censored after his article sent by the Green Lobby into a frenzy, but if this was censorship, it backfired spectacularly because his offending article was republished all over the internet and an uproar propelled his book into the most bestseller list. The most bestseller list. Is that like the most bestest? His essential message is not one of old comrades would want to hear. His thesis is that a rabid green alarmism has created a raft of dangerous myths about climate change and binding the public to real solutions that could address far more pressing global problems. Having once campaigned for them, Schellenberger now believes the most forms of renewable energy, such as solar, wind, are simply impractical for large-scale use in much of the world. They're also damaging because they require large amounts of land and harm to wildlife. Well, actually, that might be changed. That is actually true. And I used to be really, really, really excited about electric cars. I wanted an electric car so bad. And but the thing about it is like there's a limited supply of lithium for the batteries. So and we need these batteries in order to store. There's plenty of green energy, but storing it is actually a problem. But this might have actually just changed. Some scientists discovered that you can actually create a battery that is maybe 90% as energy dense as lithium out of sodium, which is amazing because that's one of the most common elements on the Earth. So this actually might not be the most current information, but last I heard about the sodium batteries, that it wasn't 100%. It's just like not just a theoretical battery. I don't want to say that it's a theoretical battery because it's not, but they don't have them in production yet. But that is the big problem with solar power. But the best thing that you can actually do, because the number one thing that we actually need to address is the actual pollution that is hurting the kids and us. And that is your 2-cycle lawnmower and your weed eater. If you can replace those with a battery, and if you can solar power those with a small solar panel, this actually would do a lot of good for the environment. This is why they've been talking about banning lawnmowers in California. It's because there's a lot of smog that's introduced with them. Now, the global warming emissions that you're going to save from it aren't spectacular, but just from the smog emissions alone, it's definitely spectacular. Here, let's keep reading in here. The humdinger of a row it sparked from this extraordinary vote. Face comes to Volt. VOLTE. I guess this is the word for the day. I guess that must be like revolt. And then, sorry. By his extraordinary vote, Volt face comes to 2 months after Michael Moore, documentary making darling of the left, created a similar stink with Planet of the Humans, a new film that also claim that green energy cannot possibly solve the world's energy needs and isn't nearly as renewable as is claimed. So this guy isn't. If Michael Moore just made a film, I think they're basically saying this guy changed his mind, kind of in line with the Michael Moore thing. I don't think, to be quite honest, daily news is incredibly bad about fake news. I think we might be falling victim to sensational news here about the climate change thing, because this isn't new stuff. We've known that apparently most of the people who would read the Daily Mail probably wouldn't actually know this. Maybe I'm just assuming other people wouldn't know this. Here, let's go to some more stories over here. Oh, but first, if you like this content, even though I did kind of biff that intro, I'm usually better at doing this. You can actually make a donation to the show at cookingwithkale.org. I'm doing all of this stuff for open source technologies that I'm using to help treat people with disabilities, depression, anxiety, memory loss. I'm like spacing it out. What else? The other thing? Oh yeah, memory loss. Productivity increases, happiness, mood benefits, and I'm only doing this show in order to round up people for this open source stuff. And even though I do actually like doing this show, but there's some open source cookbooks that you can contribute to. They're all on GitHub. But, we found another one here. I got to debunk this one here real quick. This news article here from the BBC News says QAnon, coronavirus, and the conspiracy cult, a bizarre conspiracy theory that has surged in popularity in the US since the pandemic, according to exclusive research seen by the BBC. QAnon and its believers say that Donald Trump is here to save the world from an evil cabal of pedophiles, and it's had a surprising level of interest around the world, from Brazil to Germany to UK and Indonesia. And this week, Twitter announced it would delete 7,000 QAnon-related accounts, saying it hoped the action would help prevent offline harm. BBC population correspondent Stephen Hegarty has spoken to the QAnon followers and their family to find out why this cultist conspiracy has gained so much traction. And I can tell you from the description here of them saying that it's an evil cabal of pedophiles, that is absolutely 100% false. Everything that they're saying. You cannot trust people in Britain to report accurately on things in the United States. That would just be foolish. I am agnostic about everything. I don't believe anything until I have evidence, but I'll tell you exactly what QAnon is and why it has credibility and why it's not a evil cabal of pedophiles that they're claiming it is. The QAnon conspiracy theory states that there is a hooker network that's been exploited by hostile foreign actors such as the Russians in order to get compromat on American politicians, and that they have been using the Epstein hooker network. This is why they're saying that it's a pedophile network, because it's a hooker network. And this is the common misconception that people have about QAnon, is that the Epstein network was a pedophile network. This is actually factually incorrect. The thing is statistically, if you have an 18-year-old prostitute, you're highly likely to have a 17-year-old prostitute in her friend group. And if you have a 17-year-old prostitute, you're highly likely to have a 15-year-old prostitute, and so on down the line. So what QAnon says is, well, there's this guy named Jeffrey Epstein, and he's got all these crazy connections, and he had a hooker network because he ran a modeling agency, and this network of people have been taking videos of people having sex and using those videos to blackmail them. And this absolutely does not sound like Donald Trump being here to say, okay, the reason why they think Donald Trump is the savior here is because he wasn't in on their pedophile cabal, because he didn't do drugs, he didn't drink, and he's a family man. And this is why the Russians put in all that information in the Steele dossier, that they had filmed Donald Trump having sex with prostitutes and doing golden showers, because that's the kind of thing that they do. They do that. Jeffrey Epstein videotaped powerful people having sex with prostitutes, possibly under the age of 18. Although it is not true that they were all under the age of 18. It is not true that Jeffrey Epstein was an actual pedophile. He had, because from my research, it definitely seems like Jeffrey Epstein had sex with a lot of women. It's not a pedophile has sex is sexually, not only sexually attracted to children. A pedophile is hold on. He's mostly attracted to children. I mean, it doesn't have to be exclusively, but Jeffrey Epstein clearly had a lot of girlfriends, and clearly they weren't all under the age of 18. So clearly, because he ran a modeling agency where a number of the world's most famous models came from, that would be perfectly understandable that most people would want to have sex with the models there. That's perfectly understandable. But then, see, the left just constantly engages in the hypocrisy war with this Epstein thing, because they all want to say, no, women are, that prostitution should be legalized, and that there's no shame in a woman selling her body, until it's politically expedient for them to then shame the prostitute or the Johns. When at the first moment that they can shame the John for hiring a prostitute by saying they are a sex trafficker, then this you got to see, this is a game that they just want to use in order to get power. You know, you gotta call it out when you see it. But this Epstein thing definitely is pretty sketchy. Definitely seems like there's a very high probability chance that Jeffrey Epstein did videotape some very powerful people, and the Clintons are on that list of people. Presidents of the United States are on the list. So you can't just discount QAnon as being a quacky conspiracy theory thing, because the fact is that Jeffrey Epstein has been all over the news, including in BBC. It's definitely not out of the ordinary or even outlandish to think that the Russians wouldn't use Jeffrey Epstein's hooker network. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein was very highly publicly known, and this makes him a high priority target for the Russians to exploit, to get compromise on U.S. politicians. So this goes to show you can't trust anything that the BBC says about America. And I would also argue you probably can't trust anything that the NPR says about Britain. But to these liberals, they believe this stuff religiously. So it doesn't matter whether or not it was true or not. They want it to be true. This next article from the New York Post says, Joe Biden, people don't distinguish between Chinese and other Asians, because to Joe Biden, all Asians look the same. The average American doesn't distinguish between Chinese people and Asians, Joe Biden claimed in attempts to criticize President Trump for blaming China for the coronavirus outbreak. Look what he's doing now. He's blaming everything on China. He's blaming everything on the Chinese. The former vice president said during a virtual campaign event on Wednesday, ... So let me get this straight. So in China, they have millions of Muslims in concentration camps. They have hundreds of millions of impoverished Chinese living out in the countryside. Most of them are actually older people. And then they send the people who are adult age to the cities to make money to send back to the rural. It's kind of weird. And then they have the filthy, stinking rich Chinese. They have private property ownership in Hong Kong, where you have a different set of laws, more privileges, less restrictions. Then you have a totalitarian dictatorship there run by Xi Jinping, who looks almost just like Winnie the Pooh. And then they are trying to be the world's #1 superpower. And so if you know anything about National Socialism,
You would think I was talking about Nazi Germany, but no, in fact, I was actually talking about China. China actually has a textbook National Socialist hierarchy. The very notion of National Socialism is that it's a form of socialism where you can have private property, but there's no private ownership. So hold on. In communism, there's no ownership of anything. So when you can't own. So if you have private property, it's still owned by the community, but you can own it. So in communism, nobody owns anything. You don't. Everything's communally owned. And then when you shift over to Nazism, you then have a structure where you can own stuff, but whenever the government deems that they need to use it for a war, then they get to take your stuff. That sounds to be a pretty shitty situation to me. I would much rather pay taxes and then you go then spend the money rather than come actual take my stuff. But the key part of it is that there's a ethno-nationalist component where the government owns the industries and where you can have private property. That's the key components of National Socialism. And China hits literally every single button on the Nazi pushboard. They have officially turned into a National Socialist structure. And you can actually literally go to jail in China now. You can even if you're not in China, you can have an arrest warrant put out for you for criticizing the Chinese government. For instance, saying that Xi Jinping looks like Winnie the Pooh, because he does. If you encourage the extradition of the people of Hong Kong to rebel against the Chinese government, which I am doing now, I am officially encouraging the people of Hong Kong to commit treason against the Chinese government because they're a Nazi government and to overthrow Winnie the Pooh. And so because I just said that, I now have committed a crime in mainland China. And now I can never go to mainland China. I can never open a business in Hong Kong. I can never have business associations with people who are in Hong Kong. And these are the people who own TikTok. TikTok is owned by the Chinese government. They say it's owned by what is that group of people that own TikTok? I can't remember the name of that company, but it's technically owned by a private collective of people. But in China, this is a lie. This is a 100% lie. The person who owns TikTok is the person who controls the speech on TikTok. Right? Because if you were able to control the speech on TikTok, that would mean that you have some sort of ownership over that. You have the ability to log in and control that. TikTok has turned into a massive propaganda machine for the Chinese Nazi Party. What they do is anything that's critical of the Chinese Nazi Party gets suppressed on TikTok, and they will boost messages that are what is called soft power, that speak good of the Chinese and show all the good things that China is doing that are soft power, such as building bridges in Africa and so that they can go and extract all of their resources, because that's what Chinese do. So this whole idea that you can look at Chinese like other Asians is pretty fruitcake. Most of the stuff that Joe Biden actually says and does is actually pretty fruitcake. So I'm not actually surprised that this is completely stupid, because, well, it's coming from a lefty. Joe Biden is just like Mr. Magoo. He is a prime target for KGB to exploit because he's going senile and he has a good heart. And he's an ivory tower liberal. So he'll tell you whatever you want to hear to get you to like his post, watch the ads, buy the product, and vote for him. And so when he tells you things, he's telling you that because he wants you to like him. And he wants you to like him because it benefits his group of people in order to do that. And that's why he's the front runner. And what he wants to do is he wants to say that everything that Donald Trump is doing is everything that is bad, and that he is everything that is good, and that he is the white knight he will come and save you. But in reality, he is Mr. Magoo, and the KGB, they're not so communist over there anymore. I don't really see them going towards Nazism either. I think the Russians are officially just a antagonizer at this point in time. I think they know they can fuck with us, and they do it because they think it's funny. But the Russians will exploit. They will exploit any weaknesses because they are trying to fuck with us. They know they could push certain buttons, and then the crazies in the United States will flip out. It'll be incredibly entertaining, right? Dude, can you blame them? I mean, honestly, can you really think that like most people in their right mind wouldn't actually do that, given the opportunity to fuck with you, to be able to get you all worked up into a psychosis because of some stupid memes on Facebook and some fake news articles? I mean, you can't really blame them, right? You'd do it too. You would totally fuck with them if you were Russian. But the Chinese, on the other hand, they're scary. All right. So I watched this really cool thing on ADV China, Adventures in China, and I'd highly recommend subscribing to their YouTube channel. They got like a network of people that seem to be pretty cool. That they were talking about why there's no toilet paper in China. And why there's no toilet paper in the bathrooms in China is the exact reason why you can't trust the Chinese. Like, people from China, not American Chinese. If they are from China and they are in America and they rep the Chinese Nazi Party propaganda, you cannot trust them, of course. But they don't have toilet paper in China because the older people are really, really stingy, greedy people. It's not necessarily the younger people. It's the older people in China that grew up dirt poor. And so they tried to make something where they were trying to bring in some American tourists, and couldn't tell you the province in China. And so they started putting toilet paper in the bathrooms because Americans, wouldn't go there because there's no toilet paper. And the Chinese people, the older people, would just come and take it. And so there's this mentality in China of you have to get it while it's there because they used to be so impoverished that there just wasn't anything. And so this is why things are so abundant, seem to be so abundant in China. But the reality of the situation is that they're actually impoverished. And most of the people live on, I couldn't tell you exactly how much they live on, but it's like dollars a day. And they, so that group of people are good. You can pretty much only trust them to be like some of the really, like the older, really stingy people here in America. These people are in America, right? Everybody knows them. Everybody knows the person that when they put out free stuff, they get out a box and they go and fill up, and everybody's like, oh my God, you actually took that much? You have no shame. Everybody in China's like that. Right? Everybody, all the whole people in China are like that, and everybody else knows it's going to be like that. So you have to do it too, or else you're not going to get any. So no Joe Biden, The Chinese are not like the other Asians. Every other person in Asia is saying, fuck you, dude. I'm not like those people. Next article here from Newsweek says Demi Lovato's fiance Max and Rich was tweeting about her years before they met. I don't care. Okay, so wait. Let me explain to you what I'm doing. So I'm going through the RSS news feeds, hence the RSS commentary thing down here. And we're getting news articles. And in the show, it's streams about like an hour, right? Where are we at? Yeah, so we're halfway through the stream, so I got to get going. But we're going to see a lot of fake news. We're going to see a lot of garbage, and we're going to sort through it. And I'll criticize what I can. Detective sees $2 million on mafia money laundered through fake London business by Italian crime gang. That one seems interesting. Police seize dirty cash belonging to Nordrangheta mafia based in Calabria region of southern Italy. The group was using front for business in London to clean their money. From Daily Mail, whatever happened to Yahoo Serious, the tragic demise of Australian movie star, don't care. Times of Israel, confusion and fear as Iran says millions have coronavirus. Apparently people see journalists aren't very smart. They're just because you can write an entertaining story does not mean that you're very bright. I am a very entertaining person. Most people think I'm stupid. Other people think I'm a genius. I'm going to have to push back on you. So the coronavirus has been infecting humans for a very long time. It is something called the common cold. In fact, there's a number of them, but the SARS-CoV-2 virus is one of many coronaviruses that affects humans. And this particular virus started affecting our upper respiratory tract. And that's there. Okay, so the COVID, hold on, SARS-CoV-2 or the COVID-19, whatever. It's better to say SARS-CoV-2 because that's the virus that we're working with. That one has a special kind of protein that makes it easy to get into a cell. The reason why it makes SARS-CoV-2 is such a problem is because it started attacking our upper respiratory tract. It affects other places in your body too, but because of the way the proteins bind it into the cell, it allowed it to target these cells. That's the nature of the beast. So don't say coronavirus. You need to say SARS-CoV-2. Next one, from Newsweek, if Donald Trump refuses to accept election results, DNC lawyers fully are prepared to fight. This whole thing is nonsense. Never in my life have I ever heard of anybody trying to kick the president out for not leaving, because like that just wouldn't happen. I think Donald Trump said something that made them go on this mentally ill tirade. It doesn't seem like it makes any sort of sense. It seems like it's just an attack line that they're using. What does this say? The DNC lawyers are ... getting at least mentally ready for a scenario where they have to go to the courts. A Wisconsin Democratic spokesman said, what the I just don't understand. Oops. I don't understand what the hubbub's about. DNC concerns about a possibly disputed election and testify intensified after Trump declined to give Fox News Chris Wallace an answer on whether or not he would accept the voting results. I have to see. Look, I have to see. No, I'm just going to say yes. I'm not going to say no. And that's the last time either Trump said pass. This is so stupid. Hold on. I'm trying to let this sink in. So they asked Donald Trump whether or not he would accept the election results. So I'm not sure what that means about accepting the election results. Like, what does that mean? That like he's like gonna like pull a coup and you're gonna need to use the U.S. military to get him out of here or something? You know, I'm pretty sure if he doesn't want to personally accept the election results, that doesn't have anything to do with him leaving the White House. If he doesn't think that those election results were legit, he probably wouldn't be alone in them. But nobody thought he was going to win last time. And these people, okay, you got to understand how these people in the media use these polls to rig the elections. Now, when they say a poll is within a 5% probability chance of being correct and somebody is going to win the election, what they're actually saying is if we release fake polls where we cherry pick which polls we want to put out and we put them out at specific times, we have a 5% chance of rigging the election. It's not a 5% chance of error. It's because look, you have to understand who's paying for I worked as a telephone surveyor. I know who pays for these because I knew who paid my paycheck. I worked for this place called Venture Data, and it was in Eugene, and was it Venture Data? No, it was the other one. It was in Springfield. The one in Springfield. And it wasn't the one downtown. I'm sorry, that was the one downtown. And I was one of the best people working there. I was getting like 3 times more money than everybody else, and it's because I used to live in Missouri, and I kind of have a Southern accent when I want to, and if I want to get money out of people, it really starts to get more Southern. But the people paying for these surveys they're being paid for by politicians. They don't do these. They don't pay for. Who the hell do you know that has money that they just want to like survey people to see who they want to vote for? Nobody, right? Yeah. And the reason for that would be because I'm not going to get any money out of that if I do that, right? So who's making money? The people paying for the things, right? All the stuff, the money expenditures. The money is coming in from donations, from political donations, and then they're spending it on polls. And why are they spending it on polls? To get name recognition. This is the point. This is the game that they're playing, is a game to get name recognition and a brand emotional optimization gig. And I kind of just threw those words together. What I meant by that was they're trying to optimize how you feel about them. I don't know if I used the right word, but it was what I meant. They want you to feel a certain way about them. And the way that they're going to do that is they're going to pay somebody to call you on the phone and do a survey. And that person is going to be nice. And so they're going to ask you questions. And these questions are going to put you in a certain mood and mind state. And then they're going to ask you about this or that politician and how you feel about that politician. And what they're trying to do is they are trying to get you to say, oh, yeah, I like that politician. No, they want you to be in a good mood And then they want to bring up the politician who's paying for that specific survey. You work in telephone surveys, it's very obvious that that's what they're trying to do. And so when they say a survey has a 5% margin of error, what they're saying is we have a 5% margin error of being able to rig the election when we use this specific polling technique. These people are slimy dirtballs. They're called ivory tower liberals, and they sit around on the telephone doing telephone survey, or they pay people to sit around, call people on the telephone to make you feel a certain way. And what they're trying to make you feel is that you can't trust Donald Trump because Donald Trump isn't in on... Donald Trump was never filmed having sex with prostitutes with Jeffrey Epstein. The Clintons were involved in that. Clintons were friends of the Bidens. So there's a connection to the Epstein hooker network. And that connection has not been debunked or anything. So we're going to save that one. Next one from BBC News World says Italian carabiner station of Pacenza shut over torture claims. Carabinieri military police are held on suspicion of crimes that have shocked the city of Piacenza. Boy, those Italian ones are hard, huh? Next one from Daily Mail. Man is seized by Secret Service outside Ivanka Trump's house in early morning confrontation. Man was taken into custody Thursday morning outside of Ivanka's D.C. home. Next one from the Daily Mail. Moment. Van ran, hits horse and cart as teenager drives them across country in a busy dual carriage in Ireland. Dual carriageway. A teenager was taken to the hospital and a horse was put down after it was hit on N13 road in County Donegal, Ireland. It says distressing content. Whoa. What is this? Horse and carriage. Nah. Okay. Don't want to look at that. It's kind of different. I'm like, what am I reading? So a van hit a horse and a cart. Sometimes when you read these news articles, like it's kind of in one ear and out the other. Next one here from the Daily Mail. Killer who forced drug dealers into toolbox before they were murdered is jailed. Tapuna Mariri, 29, pled to a murder of Corey Britton, 28, and Iluiana Triscaru, 31, South Brisbane in 2016. For some reason, those people's names are so much easier to read than the Italians. I don't know. I can get this Tapuna Patuna Marie. I can get that one. I don't know, man. Maybe I've spent more time in Hawaii. So what, he forced them into a toolbox. What did they do? He admitted to torturing them. Forced into a toolbox. That's a pretty big toolbox. I don't want to read too much of the article. I just want to know a large toolbox. How do you... must have been like a cabinet-sized toolbox. Because, how do you force someone to get into a toolbox bashed with a metal pole, forced into the toolbox, and then dumped into the waterway. Yeah. Little piece of shit. Next one from Daily Mail. Mnuchin says GOP wants to replace unemployment boost by giving jobless 70% of wages. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin said Thursday the Republicans wanted to give jobless Americans unemployment based on approximately 70% of wage replacement. I don't know what the current rate of replacement is. What is it? What's up with this one? Let's see. Mnuchin had made the comments on CNBC. Chief of Mnuchin and Chief of Staff Mark Meadows leading negotiations for the White House on fourth coronavirus economic stimulus bill. Negotiations started this week, but not even Republicans have agreed to all of the figures yet. Why is my mouse? Here, hold on. Oops. It died or something. Something like that. I don't know. So negotiations started this week. Not even Republicans have agreed to all the figures yet. Mnuchin also confirmed the payroll tax cut is dead, which Trump wanted, but more direct payments to Americans are likely coming. So I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to say here with the 70%. It doesn't really seem like they're saying. Schumer and Pelosi played up the fact 70% figure amount comes to pay cut for American workers. I'm not really sure that she knows that Schumer and Pelosi know how money works, because California is a heterodoxy. They're like a monoculture, one party rule state. And so there just isn't anybody there actually asking them any sort of challenging questions. So they think everything that they say is true. So when you have a situation where your wages were cut because you were working less, so you didn't physically work as much, and then not as much stuff was produced. So you have two options here. You can either take 100% of the money, the cash, and then you can devalue your currency by 30%. And so then you have the same physical number of paper there, or you can take 70% of that and we can not devalue our currency. Because the reality of the situation is that if you didn't produce anything, the money is worthless, right? So if there was actually a cut, then, well, the money just doesn't come out of anywhere. So the notion that this would be a pay cut when it's a handout from the government, well, it's an insurance money from the government. But honestly, this is a handout. This is a handout. Like, why am I not getting that? Oh, because I've been doing a startup, so I'm not really like working for anybody else right now. So I don't have a paycheck coming in. Oh, so, but that means that I have a work gap and that it's going to be even harder for me to find a job later then, right? So that means that I'm going to get double. I'm going to lose way more because there was a economic downturn, and because I had a work gap, now I'm the low man on the totem pole. So I just don't get anything. So I'm sitting here looking at all of you people who are getting these handouts from the government like, God damn, that is more money than I've had in a really long time, dude. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not poor or anything, but maybe I am technically. I don't know. If you ask me, I feel rich inside. But this is what. Okay, so for liberals, like for them, it's all just a percent, and it just doesn't matter. So like you can just keep boosting the taxes because you can fund all of these social programs by borrowing money from China, right? Right, the country that's really poor, right? See, this is the thing that's fucked up about China. You think China's got all this money, right? Nah, dude, they're broke. The only reason why it appears that China has money is because they have hundreds of millions of impoverished Chinese out in the countryside, and you just don't hear or see from them because they're not in the cities and they're hiding them from all of the social media videos. So these liberals, they just think, oh, we can just keep increasing the taxes. It's just a percent. It's just a percent. All up until it's election time and you're like, no, it's not just a percent. Oh, I guess it wasn't just a percent after all. Oh, so then we can't just raise the taxes on the rich people to 70%. Huh. Cool. Yeah. Maybe it's called reality. If anybody has heard of this thing called reality, if you could explain to me what it is, where we could find it, because I'm in Eugene, Oregon, and all I've seen here is batshit crazy delusional nonsense. Next one from Newsweek says, here's why you should care about Taylor Swift's album drop. Okay, if there's any ads for Taylor Swift's new album, you should click on the ads and buy Taylor Swift's new album because they got some AI algorithm and it got ads that pop up. And if I plug for Taylor Swift, maybe they'll give me advertising money. Who knows? Next one from Newsweek. Portland federal agents accused of war crimes for destroying medical supplies. The Geneva Convention states that destroying medical equipment is war crime violation, yet we are here in Portland. Dr. Eric Fegelding tweeted, okay, I'm in Eugene. Portland's the other city that I've spent most of my time in. So I am a Port Jeaner. Port Jean is a place in between Eugene and Portland, somewhere on I-5. It's a town I made up. It's called. I live in Port Jean, Oregon. There's actually a lot of people that drive up and down I-5 looking for Port Jean because I've told a lot of people very seriously it is a very cool town. And you should go check out Port Jean in Oregon. It's on I-5 between Eugene and Portland. The article says federal authorities have been accused of violating the Geneva Convention after apparently destroying medical equipment during protests in Portland. Okay. It's not a protest. It's a riot. It would be a protest if it hadn't been declared a riot from the beginning, and it didn't get declared a riot. I don't know if it was declared every night, but I saw a lot of videos of it being declared as a riot. So there's no disputing the fact that it was a riot and they did not have a permit for any of those protests. The article says reporter Sergio Olma shared the video on Twitter Tuesday night showing medical supplies and protective gear covered in an orange liquid. Quote, it appears federal officers During dispersal, pepper sprayed the medical supplies in the tent, end quote, Osmos wrote. The video prompted Dr. Eric Fiegelding, a epidemiologist and public health scientist at Harvard Chan School. Man, everybody's an epidemiologist nowadays, dude. Honestly, epidemiologist is one of those titles that you never, ever would hear about regularly. But now every single doctor who wants to sound credible is now an epidemiologist. It's like, really? Really? Like that? Like there was this one doctor, all right, and he was in a Newsweek article too. And he was a skin doctor who worked on homeopathic medicines for African Americans, like skin stuff. He worked on literally his degree was that he rubbed ointments on black people's skins. It was like that's what he did. But the moment the pandemic hit, he's an epidemiologist. It's the same way with all of these people. Let's look up Dr. Eric Fiegelding. Let's see what his degree was in. I bet it's not epidemiology. Oops. Dang it, what the heck is that? Dr. Lam Fiegelding is an American public health scientist who's currently visiting Science of Department of Nutrition and Harvard T.H. Chan School Public Health. This dude's way more of an epidemiologist than the other people that I've looked at. So, where's he from? And what did he get his degree in? Sorry. You know, I this guy might pass for epidemiologist, actually, yeah. Yeah, no, we're going to give this guy a pass on the epidemiologist. He's not a skin doctor who rubs ointments on African Americans. What are they trying to say? Here's the video. Okay. So, I'm not saying that this guy's falsifying evidence, but what I am going to say is that this is something that, one, you could falsify. I mean, yeah, looks like pepper spray. This one image that I saw was of this black guy getting sprayed. It said it was like it was an image of what looked like a cop spraying a protester with mace. And as it turned out, it was just water. They actually just copied and pasted them spraying water on him. So after seeing that image, I'm never going to believe people again with what they say. Literally a war crime in the Geneva Convention. It says fixed establishment and mobile medical units of the medical service may in no circumstance be attacked, but shall at times be respected and protected. Medical units, medical service. So when they put that in there, what they meant was that you're not supposed to shoot the medics. What that does not mean is that there was a riot and the police had to use riot control agents and they accidentally shot some pepper spray on the medical supplies in the medical tent. That is absolutely not a war crime in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so when you're talking about a war crime, that specifically means that what you did was a crime. I mean, I know that this sounds completely fucking obvious, right? But in order for it to be considered a war crime, you had to have killed somebody. Somebody had to have died, right? No, these people can't think that much. Like this is not, this level of thought is way too deep for them, bro. Way too deep. They can't fit that much stuff in their head, dude. This is so stupid. Everything about Oregon and California Democrats is brain dead. This next one from Daily Mail. Awful moments. NRL star has a seizure on the field after trying to tackle an opponent. Totally not news, buddy. He has seizures. Not news. Next one from the Daily Mail. Face masks will be compulsory in airports and train stations. Face mask coverings will be worn in shops, supermarkets, and shopping centers, as well as train stations and airports under the new rules set forth by across England from tomorrow. I'm kind of confused about the mask thing because, well, we've known about the flu for a long time. We've known about that you could, if you wear a face covering for the flu, if it's made out of cloth, it can increase your chance of getting the flu. And the reason for that is because the particulates start to build up on the mask, right? So like when I wash my face, right? So let's say somebody coughed on my mask, right? And I don't wash my mask, right? Well, then all of a sudden now I start to get virus particles starting to build up on my mask. And then at some point in time, I'm going to inhale the virus particles and I'm going to get sick. And because there's a lot of them building up on the mask, it's going to be a larger viral load than if I had not worn the mask in the first place. And then you have the environmental destruction from the N95 mask. So can I pull this out? Let's see. I might. I mean, I was going to put this on the next show, but I think we're kind of doubling up on the stories. We'll read them here and we'll read them there on Real Simple News with Cale McCullough. No, I don't have it. Okay, so the world's population is decreasing. Now the projections for world population is that coronavirus or COVID has taken approximately 1 billion people off of the projected population by the end of the century. So that is incredibly good news. The birth rate in like Africa and the Middle East in some of these countries is like 5 or 6 children per woman. To put that into perspective, replacement is 2.1 children per woman because, 0.05 of the people die before having kids, which is fairly low number, actually. That's actually pretty low. But the birth rates right now, when you look at like the Black and white people in the United States, it's like 1.6 births per woman. And then Asians are like only children. They're like, Asian Americans have the lowest birth rate in America. It's literally only child. It's ever so slightly above only child right now. And so when the pandemic hit, our birth rate's getting hit really hard. It's been getting hit. So it'd be great if everybody's populations just decreased at the same rate. We could just take the same diversity that we have and then just reduce the number of people on the planet. That'd be great. That would like make the world better, make everybody wealthier. It would, when you make everybody wealthier, you prevent a lot of deaths from gangs, from drugs, from crime related to poverty. And so this is the thing that's lost with everything related to COVID, and why we should not have so much government interference in our lives is because it tends to make things worse. So we have a situation where the native populations in Europe and America are plummeting, and where the populations outside of the country are skyrocketing. So every single year, the developing countries are adding like 80 million people. And so the United States is constantly pressured to let in more immigrants because we let in the most immigrants of every country in the entire world. So when people try to say that the United States is being racist by saying they don't want to take in any more people, this is a load of horseshit nonsense. The fact of the situation is we take in the most immigrants of every other country in the world. And so when people do that, they're just trying to shame you into taking in more. It's like, yo, why don't you go tell everybody else? Why don't you take in more immigrants? And they're going to tell you to fuck off. So this is the thing that we didn't take into account with this whole COVID thing and the mask ban is that people need to have babies. So if you make these lockdowns and we stop having babies, then this is going to be great for the environment. I am pro-environment. I'm very much so in favor of this policy. But the problem is it's not going to affect the same people. It's not going to affect every group of people in the exact same way. So I'm 38. You stick a mask ban on me being 38. Take another year off my ability to find a woman because everybody's wearing a mask and too freaked out to talk to each other. I can't have a baby anymore after that. Like, the women my age are no longer able to have babies. So when you throw a mask ban, you have the risk of killing off my genetic line. And I know that might sound selfish, but the fact is, only 200,000 people in the U.S. are going to die this year from COVID. 20,000 people are going to be murdered. So the chance you're going to die from COVID is about 10 times greater than the chance that you're going to get killed by a homicide, like murder. And the chance of you dying from COVID, if you're under the age of 50, is about 10 times less than if you're over the age of 50. It's 12 times higher if you have underlying health conditions. If you don't have underlying health conditions, it's not dangerous. It's no more dangerous than the flu. Nobody's ever been talking about wearing masks for the flu. Nobody cares. Why? The reason why is because the reason why the flu kills so many more younger people than COVID does is because older people have had the flu multiple times, and so they have antibodies that allow their immune system allows their immune system to fight off infections, because that's how your immune system works. I've done a lot of studying on the immune system. I modeled it for an AI project. I think the human immune system is absolutely fascinating. The way the leukocytes, especially the way that CBD, or not CBD, how marijuana can help your body cure cancer, because your cells have your skin and not just your skin, your cells have endocannabinoid receptors in them. And I don't know exact what endocannabinoids do, but the most fascinating thing is that THC allows your white blood cells to detect cancerous cells because the cannabinoids, they functionally fit into the same receptors as the endocannabinoids, which is fascinating. This allows the cells to detect the cells with cancer in them, and that's about my end of knowledge of how the chemistry works, on how it's like a chemical marker. It's basically like it's a thing that you stick onto the cell that allows the white blood cells to be able to basically sniff the foreign stuff out. If it doesn't know it's foreign, it can't attack it. And so this can cause you to die from secure acute respiratory distress syndrome. I also made ventilators, so I'm pretty knowledgeable when it comes to ventilators and COVID about how this stuff works. When you completely prevent. Okay, so if you get COVID, I was one of the first people in my town to have COVID, and so they're saying the antibodies that you get aren't going to be 100% effective at preventing you from getting COVID. And so there's 6 different kinds of COVID, and one of them is really, really bad. I think maybe 2 of them are. Don't quote me on that one. I know there's one of them very specifically that it's the most deadly one. The other ones aren't as bad. So if you had the other one that's not as bad, the chance that you're going to die from getting the one that is really bad goes down. It's the same with the flu. So these mask mandates, they shouldn't be coming from the government. They should be coming from private businesses. And the reason for that is the metaphor that most perfectly explains this is the funny hat. So let's say you wanted me, in order for me to go to your house, you want me to wear a funny hat. Okay, so if I think that your funny hat is stupid, I'm not going to go to your house. If I think that your funny hat is really cool, I'm going to go to your house and I'm going to wear a funny hat. Why? Because freedom, fuck yeah. This is the best metaphor for the mask. So if a business wants me to wear a mask because their business is going to go down because people aren't wearing a mask, well, I'm going to wear a mask when I go to your store because it's going to save me money. The fact that it would possibly help save me or someone else, to me, is irrelevant. To me, the only thing that is relevant is when I go to your store, I am going to save money. And if I don't save money, I'm not going to go to your store. If there is so much COVID at your store that if I go to your store, I am going to get COVID, I am not going to your store. Okay? If I have to go to in order to go to a bar so that I can have a drink and meet a woman, I have to wear a mask because I might die if I go to your bar. There's no way in fucking hell I'm going to your bar to drink alcohol. It's not going to happen. This is why the mask bans or mandates are stupid. They're stupid. This is liberalism 101, the dangers of how bad liberalism can go is because people go with this dogmatic thing. They're trying to help other people. So I don't know if you know this. Okay, so when you turn up your smartphone, let's say you plug in a Bluetooth speaker. This is the most common thing is when you plug in a Bluetooth speaker and you turn up your smartphone to the loudest volume, it'll make a beep. It'll go beep, and then it'll show a thing that says, loud volumes are going to mess up your ears. Like, okay. Yeah, I knew that myself. This Bluetooth speaker is not very loud. So when you turn up the loud volume and you make it go beep, and I'm on a Bluetooth speaker that's not very loud, you have not protected my ears. All you have done is made a very loud, annoying beep every single time I try to turn the speakers up to a volume that's loud enough for me to hear it. Liberals do this shit all the time. They're trying to help somebody else out, and they want to be a nice person. They want to be a good person. They want to try to help. And so they make women wear burqas. That's how that happened. This mask mandate is going to turn into a burqa mandate, because the same reason what my mom said at the store the other day. We're at the store and she said, you know what? This mask mandate's kind of nice. I can just shop at the store and it's completely anonymous. And I looked at her, I said, you know, that's the exact same thing the Muslims said. That's the exact same thing the Muslims say, dude. They like it. They like the anonymity, because Democrats as a party is very crime-ridden. If you go to these big cities like San Francisco, you can steal up to like $930 worth of stuff, and the police they can't even call the police. The police won't even come. So they got gangs full of people just going through, stealing like $20,000-$30,000 worth of stuff, with like 20 people grabbing $900 worth of stuff, right? And that's perfectly okay for them. And so for Democrats, the people who actually vote for Democrats, this is great. They get to go rob stores with the mask on, and nobody can bust them, because it's just normal to have masks now. And you got to understand, man, these Californians, these Californians are a special breed of fucked up liberal. Like, they're a special kind of stupid. And it's because they're run by the teachers' unions or the public sector unions down there. So you got to understand a little bit more about California to understand how stupid these Democrats are. So this one was about Florida Education Association, right? Oh, no, this is another article. Here, I'm gonna get through it. I'm gonna get through my point, and then let's keep moving on, because there are actually a lot of articles here. But the back to the Democrats. So in California, it's not like a normal place where like you can just like have a normal minimum wage job and live. Nobody can live on the minimum wage in I think in anywhere in America. You can't actually live on a minimum wage anymore. But in California in particular, the price of housing is like 9 times higher than normal. It's usually like at some place, like at the normal big city thing is 3 times higher, and then theirs is nine times higher. So if you want to buy a house, it's going to be over $1 million over there for like a shitty house. So nobody can actually live like normal people would in California. So they have to have all these batshit crazy fruitcake regulations. This is why the housing crisis is so bad in California, is because all of the regulations have just evolved into this swamp of public sector employee nonsense. And if you want to pass anything, you're going to like people, they literally just vote in line with whatever the teachers union or public sector union that they would work in would be in. So you got like your Silicon Valley, which has all your really big tech companies with your ivory tower liberals. You got then you got these massive pockets of poor people down in Southern California and in the smaller cities, and then in the cities you have your ivory towers. And so in order to live in these places, you would, nothing that you would do would be normal. Everything would have to be a scam set up to benefit just enough people to justify the scam. And this is everything that they've done through this process with the mask ban, with the shutting down the economy, is all about how they control their areas, because in order to control these areas, you have to target the voter base. And so these voter bases are your hood Democrats, the people living up in the hood. Then you got your white feminists, and you got your Antifa, and that is the majority of the voter base in the big cities. Hood Democrats, Antifa, and white feminists. And then at the top, you have your ivory tower liberals. They are the 0.1% of people that control everyone else, that tell you whatever you want to hear in order to get you to like their post, watch the ads, buy their product, and vote for them. What does this have to do about the mask ban? Trying to make this actually make sense to what we were talking about. So sorry, I'm trying to keep on point. What was that? We're talking about mask ban. So with the mask ban, why do they want the mask ban? They want the mask ban because some customers were freaking out, because some goodies, some old people, because the voter base. So that's the other voter base I left out. And there's the old people. White feminist, Antifa, hood Democrats, and old people. That's the vast majority of people. There are Latinos too and black people, but they're only used to optimize. They aren't the chunk. They aren't the big chunk of the voters. The big chunk of the voters are hood Democrats, white feminists, Antifa, and old people. So medium age in these cities, typically mid-30s, as opposed to a little bit younger crowds in smaller towns. And then they want to make their people happy. And they're trying to protect not the young people. They're trying to protect the old people, which really is infuriating, because whenever the pandemic lockdown hits, the suicide rate in the United States went up 356% in the month, I think it was March. I don't know where they're at right now in relation to that, but if that suicide rate had continued for the entire year, it would kill more people than COVID. That's how bad the suicide rate is. So the problem is not with the fact that we would wear masks. If you want me to wear a mask on your property, I'm going to be respectful of your property. I'm going to wear a mask on your property as you asked me to do. The government, however, does not have that kind of relationship. The government is a inanimate entity. It does not give back. It does not reciprocate. It takes, and it gives to an in-group. It doesn't give it back to your group. It gives it to another group. So I have a big problem when politicians are talking about all of these. Okay, so first, who's spreading the COVID around? The people who can't afford to be in the lockdowns, right? So the old people are not the people spreading the COVID around. The COVID is getting spread around by the young people because they're not afraid of COVID because it's not as relevant to them. And then it's the older people who it's a problem for. And so they want nobody to associate with each other. You know, it seems to me like if it's the old people who this is in danger of harming, of them dying from COVID, but it's the young people who are in danger of dying by suicide, and that there's an equal amount of the young people at risk of dying from suicide as the old people dying from COVID. It looks like we have a balance, a conflict of interest that we have to balance out, two competing interests with this mask mandate, because you can't just affect somebody's ability to have a family, because then you're taking out more people than you're saving. Like, so 4 million people are born every year. 200,000 people died of COVID. That's 5% of the births. But what happens if the birth rate goes down 10%, like is projected by the UN? Well, you've killed twice as many people as COVID would by having them not be born. But this is a good thing. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Except for when it only happens to one group of people and another group of people during that period of time's population increases. Then that's harmful for that group. For example, the population of the white people in the United States, their birth rate is about 1.6, about the same as the African Americans. The Asians' birth rate is about 1.0. And then the Latinos' birth rate is about 1.96, except for U.S. Latinos, which is about the same as everybody else's birth rate. So the only reason why the Latino population is growing is because of immigration. And so let's see, there's this chart that tells everything. It shows you how corrupt the Democrats are. I like to show this chart a lot. Here's the U.S. projected immigration by scenario. U.S. population 1900 to 2016. Population projections 2017 to 2060 by immigration scenarios. And you can see that with a low immigration scenario, we would have 376 million people. And with a high immigration scenario, we would have 446.9 million people. And so the delta between them, that's 70 million people. I'm not sure if you could quite imagine how much pollution 70 million people would put out, but it's a lot. So this is what happens when the immigration goes down. So this is why the Democrats want to bring in so many immigrants. It's because 2/3 of them are voting for the Democrats. Then like here's the results of the 2018 congressional races. And you could see here 69% of the Latinos voted for Democrats, 90% of the black people, 44% of the white people, 77% of the Asians. And so most of these people over here, like 3 out of 5 white males is a Republican. And so the women are primarily Democrats, and because they're white feminists, because they care more about they're really in this equality movement in order to get more money for themselves, because that's why they're not out there protesting for BLM to protest police brutality, because police brutality doesn't happen to them. No, they're out there protesting because they want more wages. They think that they're underpaid and that they want more wages. So the black people, I don't understand this at all. I just don't, because the Democrats were the ones that owned the slaves, started the KKK. They opposed women's suffrage, and they passed the 1994 crime bill that created the prison industrial complex and caused all of this police brutality that BLM is out protesting against. Have you heard anything from BLM about ending the war on drugs? Have you heard a single thing? No! Hell no! Why have you not heard a single thing from Black Lives Matter about, oh shoot, I'm over time. Well, this is the last story, and then I got to dip out. I was trying to cover more news articles, but, didn't happen. So why on earth would black people support the Democrats if they're primarily concerned about this police brutality that's caused in Democrat cities by Democrat laws, by the people that they put into power? They voted for the people that are causing these laws, that are causing the police brutality. So it doesn't make any sense as to why black people would support them unless you take into account the crime rate. Now you start to take into account the crime rate, and then you start to see, it starts to paint a dramatically different opinion. Oh, sorry. That's what I'm looking for. And then you can see that the black on black homicide rate is sky high. So we could see, here's the 2015 numbers. These are just convictions of homicides. They're not the actual numbers. These are convictions. The actual numbers are freakish. There's about 20,000 homicides per year. That number went down. It went back up recently. It went down to, what was it, like six? Hold on, no, it went down to 16,000 a year, and then it shot back up. So you could see just the convictions. There's 2,380 convictions. Is that homicides? Maybe that is homicides. No, these are convictions. Yeah, these are convictions. And so you could see the black people have almost as many convictions as the white people. But there's 6 times as many white people. And that means that the murder rate is about 5 times as high here when you do the math on it. And so that would perfectly explain why there's black people support the Democrats. The reason why black people supported the Democrats was because the Democrats were tougher on crime in these big cities, and the black people wanted the Democrats to stop the black people from committing all these crimes and killing everybody. Not everybody, but killing so many people. That's the reason why they're even Democrats in the first place, is because of all of the crime. Why don't they want to legalize drugs? The reason why is because they're composed of drug dealers. That's their voter base here in the Democratic Party is hoodlums, drug dealers, racist feminists, ivory tower liberals, communists. Pretty much the most skis bag groups of people in the entire country are all the composition of the Democratic Party. But I'm way over time. I'm sorry. I meant to read more articles. Tomorrow, I'm going to do more. I'm going to get through, because I was supposed to get through at least 12 hours worth of headlines, but I didn't. But I'm going to do that faster tomorrow. So thanks for watching Real Simple Coffee with Cale McCullough. And until next time, sayonara, farewell, aloha, peace be with you, and Godspeed in your journeys, friend.